So ellipses. In this section, you guys will learn how to write equations of ellipses in standard form. Find, I've always called it foci. I've been told it's also foci, but I think foci sounds better. Foci, vertices in the center of ellipses. Graph ellipses with a horizontal major axis and graph ellipses with a vertical major axis. You guys will learn what that means right now. Okay, so what is an ellipse? An ellipse is a set of all points x and y in a plane where the sum of whose distances from two distinct points called the foci or foci is constant. So in other words, any point I plot on this oval-shaped graph, this is what an ellipse looks like. It looks like a football. If I plot a point on the edge of the ellipse, the distance between the focus here and the focus here is the same no matter where I plot a point on the edge. Okay? This is the information, though, you guys need in order to graph these. So the line through the foci intersects the ellipse at 2 points called the vertices. Okay, the segment joining the vertices is called the major axis, and its midpoint is the center of the ellipse. The segment that is perpendicular to the major axis is called the minor axis. Major, I want you guys to think bigger. Minor, I want you guys to think smaller. Okay? So if you guys look at this ellipse, do you guys see how the left and right direction is longer than the up and down direction? Eddie, you looking at the screen? Okay. This is the major axis in this case because this direction is longer, which means the minor axis is this direction. Okay? They will never be the same. And that's because if they are the same, then I want to ask you guys, what shape does this form? It's a circle then. So a circle is not the same thing as an ellipse. An ellipse, the left and right direction or the up and down direction will be longer. Okay, that's why it makes that oval shaped. So standard form for equations of ellipses. When you guys take your quiz, I will give you guys these formulas. You guys just need to know how to use them. The standard form of an equation of an ellipse with center h comma k and major axis of length 2a and minor axis with length 2b, where b is bigger than 0 but smaller than a, is given by this formula. Okay, I just showed you guys that you guys can figure out the major axis by which one's longer, right? So if the major axis is horizontal, that means that the left and right direction is longer than the up and down direction. Then this is the equation that we use. x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Okay, what if the major axis is vertical? So that means this direction is longer. Watch how the equation changes. What's the only thing that happened? B and A switch. Okay? So what you guys have to understand is the equations are pretty much the same, right? The only thing that's different is the A and the B will switch. So do you guys see how in the major axis is horizontal? Do you guys see how the A squared's underneath the X? That should make sense because which direction is horizontal? X-axis or Y-axis? X-axis. So if the horizontal direction is longer, that means the A squared is going to go underneath the X. If the vertical axis is your major axis, isn't vertical up and down? So the A is going to go underneath your Y. Okay, that's the difference. Okay. The foci or foci lie on the major axis, and they are C units away from the center, where C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. So it's kind of like Pythagorean theorem, but it's not. That's next semester. We love trig. I was really bored on Wednesday. Did you guys see I added you guys to the Google Classroom for next semester? And I already put the unit circle in there so I wouldn't forget. It's going to be so much fun. All right. So we want to use these formulas. So how do you find the vertices? How do you find the foci? The center is always h comma k, no matter what. Okay? If your major axis is horizontal, then the vertices are going to be h plus or minus a comma k. If your major axis is vertical, then the vertices are going to be h comma k plus or minus a. If the major axis is horizontal, then the foci are going to be h plus or minus c comma k. And then if it's vertical, it's going to be h comma k plus or minus c. Okay. This is just something your book includes. Can you guys say this word with me? Eccentricity. Eccentricity. What this means is if this value is really close to 1, that basically tells you how circular your oval is, your ellipse is. The closer this number is to 1, that means the more close this is to a real circle. Okay? The way that you find it is this formula. E is equal to C divided by A. Most of the time, this is a really ugly number. Okay. Do you guys have this picture? Okay. Alrighty. If your major axis is horizontal, remember that means the a squared goes underneath the x. And if you guys can see from the picture, isn't the left and right direction longer than the up and down direction? So this would be a horizontal major axis, minor axis. Here it's oriented where this direction is longer, so this is major axis is vertical, which tells you that the a squared goes underneath the y. Okay? Notice that it's always equal to 1. That's just the formula. Okay? Any questions so far? And please be appreciative of this. I'm not making you guys memorize the formulas, right? You guys just have to know how to use them. So this is hard, but it could be harder if I made you guys memorize everything. All right. So start with an example. Do you guys have this cut out? Okay. So this one's not too bad. So question, guys, is this a horizontal major axis or a vertical major axis? Vertical, good, because the up and down direction looks longer than the left and right direction. So let's write that down. This is a vertical major axis. And that's important to identify because then you guys will know which formula to use. So since it's vertical, where does my a squared go? Underneath the x or the y? Underneath the y. So the equation that we're going to use is x minus h squared over b squared plus y minus k squared over a squared is equal to 1. So if I want to write the equation of this ellipse, I need to know what B is, I need to know what A is, and I need to know what my center is. So just looking at this picture, guys, what is the center of this ellipse? 0, 0. So this one's not too bad. The center is 0, 0. So remember, that is your H. And that is your K. So far we have x minus 0 squared over b squared plus y minus k squared over, 0, my bad, over a squared is equal to 1. So how do you find A? Basically, the distance from the center to the vertices is the same distance up as it is down from the center. So how far from the center do I go up? 4 to get to this point, right? So that means that A, the longer distance is going to be 4. B, these are like your minor vertices because these are the edges from the center. How far do I go each direction? 2. So that means that B is 2. All you have to do is plug these numbers in, and then we're done. Here, though, if it's x minus 0 squared, do you guys agree I could just write it as x squared? So x squared over, if I plug in 2, what's 2 squared? 4. Plus, I could just write this as y squared over, what is our a squared? 16 is equal to 1. Questions? Not too bad so far? Okay. You guys should have a graph that looks like this. So this one's not as easy because are we at this origin? No. So is this a horizontal major axis or a vertical major axis? Horizontal. So when we write our equation, guys, where does the a go? Underneath the x or the y? X. So it's going to be x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. Okay, so for this problem, you actually could probably figure out the center just by looking at the picture. But how else could I find the middle between these 2 points? What formula can I use? What's that formula called? I'm finding the middle point, the midpoint formula, right? I can use the midpoint formula to find the middle point between these 2 points. Okay? So for the center, I would use the midpoint formula. So midpoint, remember, is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And if I want to use these 2 points, this would be x1, x2, y1, y2. So it's going to be negative 7 plus 1 divided by 2, comma 1 plus 1 divided by 2. Negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Comma 1 plus 1 is 2. Divided by 2 is 1. So your center is negative 3 comma 1. So remember, that means that this is H and this is K. Okay? To find the A and the B, remember, this is horizontal major axis. So if this is my center, negative 3 comma 1, the A value is the distance between this point and this point, or this point and this point. How many units do I go over to get from here to here or here to here? 4. So that means that A is going to be 4. And B is going to be, how far do I go up or down? 2. Okay? So we have everything we need. So if it's x minus h squared, but h is negative 3, what am I going to write? X plus 3 squared over, what's 4 squared? 16 plus y minus 1 squared over, what's going on the bottom? 4 is equal to 1. Questions? No? Are we comfortable? Okay. Example. Do you guys have graphs still? Hopefully, from last week? Jose.
This is your stuff that you'll need for
All right, this is the type of problem you can expect to see on your quiz. So find the center, vertices, foci, and eccentricity of the ellipse, and then sketch its graph. So I want you guys to look at the equation and tell me, how could I figure out if this is horizontal major axis or vertical major axis? But how do I know if it's major or horizontal without having to do any math? Which number's bigger? 64. Is the 64 underneath the x or the y? The x. So because this number is bigger, that means this is your a squared and this is your b squared. Does that make sense? So this is if it's underneath the x, that tells you that this is a horizontal major axis. Okay. So the way that you guys can think about it is, remember it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. There's no numbers in the parentheses. So what does that mean about our center? 0, 0. So I'm going to plot that already. This is the larger number, so this is our a squared, which means that this is our b squared. So that means that a is equal to the square root of a squared, which is 8. And b is the square root of b squared, which is 3. Okay. Now, this problem wants us to figure out our vertices, foci, and eccentricities. So we haven't done this yet. So look in your notes. This is a horizontal major axis. So what is the formula to find the major vertices? If it's horizontal. H plus or minus A, comma K. So what's our H? 0 plus or minus, what's A? What's A? 8, comma, what's K? 0? Because this is our center, right, guys? Right, guys? So what's 0 plus 8? So 8 comma 0, and 0 minus 8 is negative 8 comma 0. So these are, your book will just call these the vertices, but this really is your major vertices, because these are the major axis. These are on the major axis. Okay, this helps you with graphing. You can also find your minor vertices. So talk to me, guys. If the major axis goes this way, isn't that the x direction? Okay, do you guys see how I'm adding the a value to the x coordinate? You guys follow me? So how could I find the minor vertices? If the major axis goes this way, guys, what does the minor axis go then? up and down. So do you guys see how I added the a value to the x? To find the minor vertices, you're going to add what? The b value to the y. Yes. Okay. So this is going to be 0, 0 plus or minus, what was b? What? 3. So it's going to be 0, 0 plus 3 is 3. And 0, 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Okay. So let's go ahead and plot all these points. So 8, 0, negative 8, 0, 0, 3, and 0, negative 3. It didn't jam, right?
I know, no, like when I went files on it.
Oh, like that.
No, it was like involved.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about what I just did? Okay, we're not done though yet because we still have to find the foci and the eccentricity. So what's the formula to find the foci? So we need to find the c value because the foci from our notes, if it's major axis, is h plus or minus c, comma k. Don't look at that right now. Don't look at that right now. What is the formula to find c? Yes, c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. So what is a squared? Wasn't that 64? Minus, what's b squared? 9. So c squared is equal to 55, which means that c is equal to the square root of 55. I'm not going to make you guys graph it, but this is just how you find it. Because is this a pretty number? Do you guys want to graph this number? I don't either, so we're not going to. But to find what the points are, remember h was 0 and k was 0. So it's going to be 0 plus or minus the square root of 55, comma 0. So it's going to be square root of 55, comma 0. And 0 minus that is negative square root of 55, comma 0. So these are our foci. Okay? To find the eccentricity, what was the formula to find the eccentricity? E equals c over a. What was c? Square root of 55. And what's a? 8. So on the quiz, you can just leave it like this, okay? Or you can just round it. What would that be to 3 places? I get this. Okay? That's a lot of work. So if you guys look at your 9.2 homework, how many problems do you guys have? Do you guys see? Just 7. And one of them's a vocabulary question. And then two of them are like this problem. So they're pretty quick. Okay. I didn't put the graphs on your homework because I wasn't sure if you guys will all have the same problems. I didn't want to put the graph on there and then it doesn't match your homework. Okay. All right. But that's how you do this. Any questions on any of these steps? This one wasn't too bad because the center was 0, 0. Okay. But what if it's not? Okay, this one's a funky one. You guys will see why. How do I know if this is vertical or horizontal? Which number is bigger on the bottom? 16 is which variable is that under X or Y? Y. So is this vertical or horizontal? Vertical, good. So this is gonna be our A squared, which means this is gonna be our B squared. So this is going to be a vertical major axis. What is the center? Comma 2. So that tells us that this is H and this is K. Okay, we have to unfortunately find A and B now. Which one of these is going to make us unhappy? 12. Why? Is that a pretty number? No. Okay, we could do a factor tree on 12, but aren't we graphing this? So we really need the decimal version of this number, okay? So to find A makes us happy. A is equal to the square root of A squared. So what is that? 4. B is going to be the square root of B squared. And if you put that into your calculator, it's about 3.46. Okay, what else do we need to find? The vertices and the foci, right? And the eccentricity. So let's find the vertices. Let's find the major ones first. So you use the A value and just think, guys, which axis is the major axis? Vertical or sorry, X axis or Y axis? Y. So that means I'm going to add the A value to the Y coordinate because it's the vertical axis that's major. So the formula is going to be H comma K plus or minus A. What was H? So -3 comma K, which is 2, plus or minus, what was A? 4. So our vertices are going to be -3 comma 2 plus 4 is 6, and -3 comma 2 minus 4 is -2. I don't believe your homework will ask you guys for the minor ones, but to graph it, it's a lot easier if you have them. So which axis is minor? The x one, right? So that means I'm going to add what to the x coordinate? The b. So this is going to be h plus or minus b, comma k. So it's going to be -3 plus or minus. Remember our b value was that decimal, comma k. And I need you guys to help me out. -3 plus that number. I want to say it's this. What about -3 minus that number? -7? -6.46? I don't know why I thought it was going to be uglier than that. It's still pretty ugly, though. Okay. All right. Foci, whatever you guys want to call it. To find the foci, you need to find C. So this one's not that bad because watch what happens. C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared. What was A squared? 16 minus what was B squared? 12. 16 minus 12 is 4. And why is that nice? What's the square root of 4? 2. Okay. So since it's a vertical major axis, that means that the foci is going to be h, comma, k plus or minus c. So it's going to be -3, comma 2 plus or minus 2. So -3, comma 2 plus 2 is 4, and -3, comma 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay. Last thing I need to find is eccentricity, which is E is equal to what? C over A. What was C? 2 divided by what's A? 4, which equals 1/2. Okay, so now let's graph this thing. To graph it, you just need your vertices and your center. You don't need the foci. Okay, so what was our center? -3, comma 2. Okay, our horizontal axis is the minor one. The vertical one is longer. So -3, comma 6. Wait, that's off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then our minor, so 0.46, that's kind of close to a half, right? Comma 2. So something like this. And then -6.46, comma 2. So something like that. It looks something like that. Okay. We have one more problem that's harder than this, and then one more example where you're given like